I am about to show you why the routine, mandated medical checkups your doctor aggressively pushes on you the second you turn 65 are actually diagnostic traps designed to strip your mitochondria of their energy, shatter your microbiome, and funnel you into a pharmaceutical meat grinder. And how utilizing sheer biochemical mapping and mechanical structural analysis is the only way to genuinely measure your biological decay. We are dealing with a catastrophic medical culture that hunts for statistical anomalies so they can medicate you into compliance, all while ignoring the screaming mechanical and cellular failures happening right in front of their eyes. Stay with me. For the next 32 minutes, we are going to completely dismantle everything the medical establishment has told you about preventative care in your senior years. We are going to dive deep into the hardcore physics of bone piezoelectricity, the brutal mechanics of your endothelial walls, and the terrifying reality of why standard diagnostics are designed to treat a math equation on a piece of paper while completely ignoring your cellular suffocation. By the end of this masterclass, you will know exactly which 5 medical checkups you must fiercely refuse, and you will have the aggressive, biological tools to demand the exact tests that actually matter. Comment below if you have ever walked into your doctor's office feeling perfectly vibrant, only to walk out with 3 terrifying new diagnoses and a handful of new prescriptions that make you feel like an exhausted, dizzy zombie. Type diagnostics if you want the exact aggressive biological protocol to uncover your true health and escape the medical matrix. Let me tell you about Robert. Robert was 73 years old. He played tennis twice a week, gardened, and felt fantastic. He went in for his mandated Medicare annual wellness visit, the ultimate fishing expedition. Robert was the perfect victim. He walked out of that office with a prescription for a statin because his standard lipid panel showed high cholesterol, a bisphosphonate drug because a DEXA scan showed osteopenia, and a scheduled, highly invasive prostate biopsy because his routine PSA was slightly elevated. Within 3 months of following his doctor's preventative orders, Robert was a ghost of his former self. He was experiencing excruciating, tearing muscle cramps in his calves that forced him to quit tennis. He developed severe, suffocating brain fog, and his digestion was completely destroyed. His primary care doctor patted him on the back and told him this was just the unavoidable reality of aging and offered him an antidepressant. When I looked at Robert's actual biology, I was furious. I didn't see a sick man, I saw a man suffering from profound iatrogenic cascade, disease directly caused by medical intervention. His doctor wasn't treating Robert, his doctor was treating a sheet of paper. We threw out the standard lipid panel and looked at his oxidized particle size. We threw out the basic PSA and looked at his pelvic floor fascial restriction. We halted the toxic bone drugs and restored his mitochondrial ATP production. Within 4 weeks, Robert's brain fog evaporated, his muscle pain vanished, and he was back on the tennis court. He wasn't aging rapidly, he was being chemically poisoned by his own diagnostics. Here are the 5 standard medical checkups I would never ever get after the age of 65 and the exact physics of why they are destroying you. Checkup number 1, the standard lipid panel. Your doctor draws your blood, looks at a number called total LDL, and if it is over an arbitrary threshold, they immediately write you a prescription for a statin. This is a catastrophic failure of basic biochemistry. Total LDL is a meaningless garbage metric. LDL is just a boat, a protein transport vehicle that carries life-saving cholesterol, fat-soluble vitamins, and antioxidants to your brain and your cell membranes. The danger is not the number of boats in the water. The danger is whether those boats are oxidized and microscopic. When you consume standard American garbage, seed oils, and high fructose corn syrup, the LDL particles become oxidized. They shrink, they become biological shrapnel. These tiny oxidized particles are what pierce the endothelial glycocalyx, the delicate hair-like forest lining your arteries. But what does a statin do? A statin is an HMG-CoA reductase inhibitor. It shuts down the mevalonate pathway in your liver to stop the production of cholesterol, but that exact same pathway is responsible for producing coenzyme Q10. CoQ10 is the biological spark plug for your mitochondria, the energy factories inside your cells. When you chemically castrate this pathway, your heart muscle and your leg muscles experience profound cellular starvation. They cannot produce ATP. That is why your legs cramp. That is why your memory fails. Your doctor is treating a math equation while actively suffocating your muscular and neurological engines. Checkup number 2, the routine DEXA scan. Women are terrified into getting this bone density scan every year. The machine measures how opaque your bones are to x-rays. If they aren't dense enough, you are diagnosed with osteopenia or osteoporosis and handed a bisphosphonate drug. Here is the hardcore physics they are ignoring. Bone strength is not just about density, it is about elasticity. Your bones are a matrix of hard calcium minerals embedded in a flexible web of collagen protein. When you jump or walk, your bones are supposed to slightly bend. This bending creates a microelectrical charge called the piezoelectric effect. This electrical spark tells your body to send in osteoblasts to build new bone and osteoclasts to clean away the old, dead bone. It is a constant, brilliant cycle of biological remodeling. Bisphosphonate drugs aggressively murder your osteoclasts. They trigger cellular apoptosis, cell death, in the exact cells designed to clean your bones. What happens? Your bones retain all the old, dead, decaying tissue. Yes, they look extremely dense and opaque on the DEXA X-ray, which makes your doctor thrilled. But that bone is entirely dead. It has lost all its collagen elasticity. It has turned into brittle, rigid glass. And what happens to glass under pressure? It doesn't bend, it shatters. This is why women on these drugs for years suddenly experience atypical, catastrophic femur fractures just from stepping off a curb. You traded flexible, living tissue for a dense, dead, biological, concrete pipe. Checkup number 3, the routine asymptomatic PSA test. Men over 65 are routinely subjected to prostate-specific antigen blood tests. If the number is slightly elevated, the medical establishment panics and funnels you directly into a transrectal prostate biopsy. Let's look at the mechanical reality. The prostate is a gland wrapped tightly in the fascia of your pelvic floor. PSA is a protein produced by the prostate. It naturally rises for dozens of non-cancerous reasons: riding a bicycle, a localized urinary tract infection, benign hyperplasia, or severe fascial restriction in the pelvic floor that physically squeezes the gland, causing localized inflammation. When your doctor blindly orders a biopsy based on a slight PSA elevation, they take a spring-loaded needle, punch it through the wall of your rectum, which is loaded with highly infectious fecal bacteria, and violently core out 12 samples of your prostate tissue. This introduces massive biological trauma and a terrifying risk of systemic sepsis. Furthermore, the scarring from the biopsy creates rigid fibrotic tissue in the pelvic floor, guaranteeing urinary incontinence and erectile dysfunction. They are aggressively mangling your local anatomy to hunt for microscopic, slow-growing anomalies that, in the vast majority of men over 70, would never have caused a symptom in their natural lifetime. Checkup number 4, the standard fasting blood glucose and A1C. Your doctor draws your blood, sees your fasting glucose is 95, and tells you that your metabolism is perfectly healthy. This is the ultimate late-stage medical gaslighting. Blood sugar is the absolute last mechanism to break in your body. By the time your fasting glucose rises above normal, you have been suffering from profound metabolic destruction for over a decade. The real monster is hyperinsulinemia. When you eat a standard diet, your cells become deaf to insulin. The insulin receptors on the cell surface downregulate. To force the sugar into the cells, your pancreas has to pump out massive, screaming tsunamis of insulin. Insulin is a highly anabolic growth hormone. In massive doses, it acts like a corrosive acid on the endothelial lining of your blood vessels. It triggers the proliferation of smooth muscle cells, physically thickening your artery walls. It drives advanced glycation end products, literally caramelizing your vascular tissue. Your doctor is ignoring the biological fire alarm and waiting until the entire house has burned to the ground before offering you a chemical extinguisher in the form of metformin. Checkup number 5. The routine colonoscopy prep for asymptomatic seniors. Let me be very clear. Colon cancer screening is important, but the mechanical and chemical execution of the standard colonoscopy is a biological disaster. I am specifically talking about the prep, the gallons of polyethylene glycol, PEG, they force you to drink. Your large intestine is not just a tube for waste. It is a highly complex, microscopic rainforest. The inner wall is coated in a thick protective layer of mucin. Living inside this mucin are trillions of bacteria that ferment fiber into short-chain fatty acids, specifically butyrate. Butyrate is the primary fuel source for your colon cells. It keeps the tight junctions of your gut lining sealed. When you drink the chemical PEG prep, you are detonating a biological nuclear bomb in your gut. It doesn't just flush out stool, it violently strips away the entire mucin layer. It aggressively washes away the butyrate-producing factories. It leaves the tight junctions of your intestinal wall gaping open. The result is instant, severe intestinal hyperpermeability, leaky gut. For months following this routine procedure, massive, undigested proteins and endotoxins flood straight into your bloodstream, triggering runaway systemic inflammation, autoimmune flares, and severe cognitive decline. You are destroying your biological barrier for a visual inspection. We are going to stop treating your body like a collection of isolated math equations. We are going to assess the actual structural physics and biochemical integrity of your cells. Here is the aggressive, multi-step protocol to demand the correct diagnostics and fix the root causes. Step 1. The cardiovascular particle and mitochondria rescue. Refuse the standard lipid panel. Demand an NMR lipoprofile or an ApoB test. This will measure the exact size and oxidation level of your cholesterol particles, giving you the true thermodynamic picture of your vascular risk. If you have been poisoned by statins, you must instantly resuscitate your mitochondria. You must take a high dose of ubiquinol, the biologically active reduced form of CoQ10, paired with PQQ, pyrroloquinoline quinone. PQQ literally triggers mitochondrial biogenesis. It forces your cells to grow brand new energy factories to replace the ones the drugs paralyzed. Step 2. The osteostructural rebuild. Refuse the standard DEXA scan. Demand a CTX and P1NP blood test. These are bone turnover markers that tell you the real-time biological activity of your osteoblasts and osteoclasts, not just a static shadow on an X-ray. To rebuild the elasticity of your bones, you must engage the piezoelectric effect. You need heavy structural loading, resistance training, and impact mechanics. To guide the calcium out of your arteries and into the new bone matrix, you must consume vitamin K2 in the MK7 form, minimum 100 micrograms a day. MK7 is the biological traffic cop that activates osteocalcine, physically weaving the calcium into the collagen web. Step 3. The prostatic fascial release. If your PSA is elevated, refuse the immediate biopsy. Demand a free-to-total PSA ratio or an advanced MRI, which carries zero infectious risk. Next, you must address the mechanical stricture of the pelvic floor. You must utilize deep myofascial release, specific structural stretches that break the cross-linked fibrin suffocating the prostate gland. Biologically, you must replace the profound cellular zinc depletion that allows the prostate to swell. Take bioavailable zinc picolinate paired with a high-potency saw palmetto extract. The saw palmetto actively inhibits the 5-alpha reductase enzyme, stopping the conversion of testosterone into the inflammatory DHT that physically enlarges the gland. Step 4. The cellular insulin sensitizer. Refuse to just look at fasting glucose. Demand a fasting insulin test. If your fasting insulin is over 5 UIU/ml, your cells are actively resisting the signal and you are caramelizing from the inside out. You must violently rip open the cellular doors without spiking more insulin. To do this, you will deploy berberine HCl. Berberine is a master biological AMPK activator. It goes deep into the cell and turns on the metabolic master switch, physically forcing the cell to pull glucose out of the blood and burn it for energy, instantly dropping the horrific insulin burden on your vascular system. Step 5. The microbiome mucosal reconstruction. For colon screening, demand a highly sensitive FIT test, fecal immunochemical test, or advanced stool DNA testing like Cologuard, which requires zero chemical prep and zero mucosal destruction. If you have already had your gut lining stripped by a colonoscopy, you must aggressively rebuild the mucin layer. You must consume 5 grams of pure L-glutamine powder on an empty stomach every morning. L-glutamine is the exact amino acid your enterocytes use to rebuild the structural integrity of the gut wall. Pair this with a targeted Akkermansia mucinifila probiotic. This specific keystone bacterial strain actively feeds on and thickens the protective mucus layer, sealing the microscopic tears and shutting down the systemic endotoxemia. Stop letting the medical system treat you like an arbitrary statistic on a lab printout. Your body is not failing due to age. It is desperately trying to survive the chemical starvation, mechanical restriction, and diagnostic trauma being forced upon it. Take off the biological straitjacket, demand the real metrics, restore your cellular engines, rebuild the barrier. I'm Dr. Amelia Carter. I'll see you in the next video.